Hello everybody and welcome to this circus we like to call YouTube. My name is King Newsme. I asked you guys what episode of the Haunting Hour you guys would like to see me talk about next, and you guys finally voted for Afraid of Clowns. Afraid of Clowns is one of the most popular and memorable episodes of the Haunting Hour. Ever since my first ever Haunting Hour video, people have been asking me to talk about this episode, but then you guys just don't vote on it in the polls for some reason. This episode's so memorable because clowns are just scary to most people, and especially in this episode, the clowns are super eerie, even though they don't really do anything to warrant them to be super scary. But this episode does have a pretty wild ending, so stick around. This episode is actually based off of a short story from the Nightmare Hour book, which I have read, and I'll be giving you a short summary of it at the end of the video, so stick around for that. But that's enough yapping, let's get into the episode. The episode starts with a POV shot of somebody that's running through a house that's decorated for a birthday party. And by decorated, I mean there's balloons here and there. That's pretty much decoration. The person reaches the bathroom where we see a small boy hiding for his life in one of the cabinets. I mean, he probably could have shut the cabinet a little more. The kid was doing okay until... There you are! This nice clown man finds him. But based on the kid's face, I don't think he's too happy that the clown is there. I've actually never seen someone more terrified than this kid is right now. That's so funny. Either he's the greatest little actor of our time, or they showed him something truly terrifying and this is his reaction. The kid's parents try to explain to him that he's just a clown and he's not gonna hurt him. He's just there for fun. Even the clown tries to make him a little more comfortable.
There really is no reason to be afraid of clowns.
On second thought, maybe you should stop talking. 7 years later, and the boy has gotten much older. It'd be kind of weird if he didn't get older though. His name is Chris, and he's played by Jake Cherry, who you might know from the Night of the Museum movies. Those are classic movies in my opinion. He's turning 13, and now that he's turning into a teenager, he has to have a very awkward conversation with his dad, who decides to do it at breakfast. Ew. Maybe try like after dinner or right before bed so he doesn't have to walk around all day thinking about that. But I guess it doesn't matter anyways because Chris's dad's newspaper has an ad for a clown show. And Chris doesn't hear a thing he says because he's so terrified of the clown picture on the ad.
Sorry.
You see, Chris has coulrophobia, which means he's so afraid of clowns that he could die. Even seeing this drawing of the clown has him stun-locked in fear. Even after Chris's dad notices he's not paying attention, he tries again to tell Chris that his body's gonna be changing a little bit the next couple of weeks.
Oh God, Dad, are you giving me the talk? Please, just stop, okay?
I told you, do it after dinner. Luckily, his friend Finch is here to save him. Boys ride around and try to figure out what they should do for the rest of the day.
I say we go to those abandoned warehouses and throw rocks at the windows.
That actually sounds so fun. I miss those days. But before they head off, they notice a parked car outside of Chris's friend Danica's house. They identify the dude to be a sophomore, and he's there to pick up Danica. Apparently, she just turned 13, and she's hanging out with the cool high schoolers, which is a huge deal for them. So, Finch wants to use her, so he has a way into the older kids crowd. And Chris follows him as someone watches them from the bushes nearby. Finch pulls up and absolutely embarrasses himself. Ha, idiot! And Danica invites them both to this clown show that's in their city. The same clown show that we saw advertised earlier. Sadly, Chris can't get over his fear of clowns to go hang out with the older crowd, so he denies her offer. He tells them to go have fun, but they have other plans, which I think disappoints Danica a little bit.
Cool.
I think she likes him. Ooh. And Finch isn't too happy about it either. And as the boys leave to go do their plans, we catch a glimpse of who's been stalking him from the bushes this whole time. When we catch up with the boys, we see that they're throwing rocks at this dumpster that's next to this billboard that's full of ads for the clown show. Finch tries to talk to Chris about his intense phobia of clowns. He knows that clowns are a bit weird and he understands why Chris is scared of them. But
It's killing our social lives.
Chris tells him that he feels like clowns have been stalking him his whole life. It's almost like they know him and they're coming after him. But Finch is tired of his silly little fear and tells him that he's turning 13 now and he needs to hurry up and get over this. Finch then gets on his bike and heads over to the clown show.
Are you coming with me? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Wow, that's kind of a shitty thing to do to your friend. This makes Chris super mad and he throws a rock at the poster of the clown and well, I'll just show you what happens. What? Maybe the clowns have been watching him this whole time. Chris rides home and along the way, this car starts following him. It chases him until he stops in the middle road and says,
What do you want, you creep?
and after what happens next, I'm sure Chris wishes he just kept going.
Hey, Chris.
The clown can tell that Chris is terrified and he tries to calm him down, but only makes things worse. Then multiple clowns climb out of the car and start being silly and waving at Chris. So Chris runs away. I mean, I didn't expect him to stay and fight, so that really makes sense. But no matter how far he runs, the clowns will find him. Wait, when did they paint the balloons on the car? The balloons weren't on it in the last scene. Chris tries to tell his dad about what happened to him outside. But of course, his dad doesn't believe him. But this is when he tries once again to give Chris the talk. But Chris is not having it.
Dad, I don't want to talk about this right now.
So his dad obliges and leaves the room, while Chris gets some sleep. Some sleep? Buddy, it's 2 p.m. Why are you going to sleep? Okay, whatever. That night, Chris dreams of that clown that we saw at the beginning of the episode. The clown is at his 13th birthday party, but they're also only toddlers at his 13th birthday party. For some reason, just a bit strange. The clown then threatens Chris and almost cuts his face.
Who wants cake?
Damn, dude, do you know nothing about knife safety? Then tells Chris
It'll only hurt for a second.
before cutting his very real looking hand off and offering it to him to eat.
Well, dig in, Chris. After all, you're the birthday boy.
Luckily, his parents wake him up before he can cut off any other limbs for the toddlers. And later, there's someone at the door. It's Donica, and she brought Chris a gift. Then we have to watch the most awkward conversation happen.
Cool. Yeah. Well,
When Chris opens the card, he finds that she left him a cute note, aww, and a yellow envelope that has a ticket to Captain Crazy's carnival. Oh no. Since it was a gift, Chris actually goes to the carnival and he convinces his friend Finch to buy a ticket as well. But when he gets there, he's too scared to walk around.
Don't tell me you're gonna chicken out now.
But Chris is a big boy now and he decides to just do a breathing technique and face his fear of clowns. As they're walking around, they notice their friend Donica and that boy Jaden are hanging out. Finch tries to boost his friend's confidence, but he's not very good at it.
I'm sure Danica hasn't even noticed that he's older and cooler and way better looking than you.
I'm sure Chris feels so much better after that. Luckily, Donica sees Chris and ditches her older friends to come over and talk to him. He thanks her for the ticket, then lies to her and tells her that he was going to come to the carnival today anyways. Yeah, right. So Donica asks him to walk with her.
Come on, birthday boy, let's have some fun.
Whoa, you're only 13. No fun. Apparently that older dude, Jaden, isn't even into her. He's into one of the other girls that they're hanging out with. I don't know, man. He's been acting mighty weird around her this episode. He also gives them this death stare as they walk away. That look might be because they left Finch behind, though.
What's up? Come on, let's go.
That's probably it. They get in line for the clown show. And while Donica is trying to talk to Chris, all he can think about is the clown that's tearing tickets at the end of the line. And he doesn't hear a word she says.
Do you like elephants?
okay.
Luckily, they somehow make it inside the tent and the show begins. Where we meet Captain Crazy, who's probably the scariest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. I understand why Chris is scared of clowns now. I got you, buddy. He introduces the circus and the rest of the clowns come out and they start doing little silly clown things like they do. But it's almost like they're doing the show for Chris. And I think this because Captain Crazy's eyes literally do not leave Chris the whole show. They pull out this giant box and they tell the crowd that they need a special volunteer.
Someone here is celebrating his 13th birthday today.
Uh-oh. Maybe somebody else is celebrating their 13th birthday. It can't possibly be you. Chris tries to escape, but barely makes it 10 feet before being captured by the clowns. But before they throw him into the box, Captain Crazy tells the crowd that the box has magical properties. And you'll see what he means by that here in a little bit. They throw Chris into the box.
Sit back and relax. This is all for you, Chris. It's all for you.
And while he's in the box, Captain Crazy uses this crank that spins him really fast as they count down from 5. And when they reach 1, they open the lid to reveal they turn Chris into his worst nightmare. Confused, Chris asks what's going on, so they show him.
See for yourself.
And I don't think he's too happy with the outcome. He panics and starts pushing all the clowns down and runs backstage. But before he escapes, he tries to wipe off some of the makeup that's on his face, as the clowns slowly find their way to him. But as he's wiping the makeup, he realizes no matter how hard he tries, the makeup won't come off. He starts to panic about it a little bit, but before he goes too crazy, his parents show up.
Hey, pal.
His dad starts to talk about how he tried to warn him that in the next few weeks his body's gonna be changing, but Chris didn't want to hear it, and his mom tells him that today, finally, he becomes one of them, which is a weird thing to say, but the next scene I'm going to show you is totally mind-blowing. I can't even put into words what happened, so I'm just going to show you.
What does that mean?
Yes, he was born a clown and he's going to be a clown for the rest of his life. At least he has a loving family though. And that's the end of the episode. I truly cannot do this episode justice. You must watch this episode on your own. I cannot put into words how terrifying it actually is, and I've skipped over a bunch of really cool parts. I love how most of the clowns aren't really scary at all. They're just normal looking clowns, but Captain Crazy is one of the scariest clowns I've ever seen in my life. He has these terrifying, piercing blue eyes, and his aura around him just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm also surprised they didn't add a little Easter egg for like Murder the Clown from the Goosebumps book, Nightmare on Clown Street. But now that I think about it, there's not really any Goosebumps Easter eggs in the Haunting Hour. I think it's to keep the two series separated, so that makes sense, but it would have been cool to see him in there. Now, I mentioned earlier that this episode is based off of a short story. The story is in this book known as The Nightmare Hour, along with 9 other stories that also got turned into Haunting Hour episodes. Luckily, I haven't talked about any of the other episodes yet, besides the dead body, but we'll just have to miss out on that one. So I'll get to do this again when I get to another one of the stories. R.L. Stine wrote this for his childhood friend Christopher, who was afraid of clowns. And that's why the main character's name is Chris in the episode and in this story. And I highly recommend you check out the book if you're even the slightest bit interested. The stories are all super short, like the one I'm about to tell you is 6 pages long. They're super fun little bedtime stories, so just check it out. It's pretty cheap on Amazon too. The story starts off with Chris telling us how he got his fear of clowns. He was at his friend Billy's 3rd birthday party and they hired a clown. At the party, the clown was doing the usual clown stuff, you know, magic tricks, pulling pranks. But as he was doing this, Chris claims that his eyes weren't kind. They were sinister, cruel eyes. The clown targeted Chris as a joke. He bumped him and backed him into a corner, and then when he had him trapped, he leaned down closer and said, "You could die." Laughing. So yeah, that's a pretty good reason to be kind of scared of clowns. 12 years go by and Chris is still terrified of clowns, even having a reoccurring nightmare about the clown at the birthday party. He still doesn't like carnivals, but some of his friends were going, so he decided to go with them. And he was doing fine until he spotted a clown from across the gym. He tried his best to avoid the clown, but the gym was just too crowded and he ended up bumping into him. He said the clown had watery, sick-looking eyes. The clown would honk a horn in his face and slowly backed him into a corner. He got closer and whispered, "You could die." Laughing. So obviously this freaked Chris out, so he ran out of the gym. A week later, his parents decide to take him to a circus and give him some exposure therapy. Maybe hanging around clowns for a little bit will cure his fear of them. But during the circus, the clowns say that they need a victim from the crowd. And of course they choose Chris. Then they literally abuse Chris. They dump confetti on his head, throw him through a hoop of fire, and use brightly colored 2x4s to spank him. They were actually trying to hurt the kid. And while all this was happening, the audience, including his parents, were just laughing at him the whole time. And after they got done beating the kid, they drag him into a different tent, tie him to a chair, and chant, "You could die laughing." They told Chris that they took him because he was scared of them. He knows that they're not funny, that they're actually scary and very cruel. They said that they track down every kid that's afraid of them because they don't want their secret that they're actually scary to get out. And they always capture the kids because the kids' parents take them to the circus to cure them, which makes them easier to grab. The parents do all the work for them and they just pick them out of the crowd. The clowns start the "You could die laughing" chant again as they pull out 2 giant feathers and start tickling him all over his body, which causes him to literally die laughing. But he didn't actually die. Before he died, he made a deal with him for his life. He would become a clown. Momo the clown. Now he helps them to capture kids that are afraid of clowns and he tortures them. So now he's one of the cruel ones. Pretty crazy, right? I would say that story is a little bit more intense than the episode. The huge difference of the two is the ending, of course. In the show, Chris is a clown his whole life and his parents are clowns. He's born into it. But in the book, he chooses to become a clown to save his life. Another difference from the story to the episode is the carnival. In the story, the carnival is just a themed middle school dance thing, but in the show it was like an actual like parking lot carnival that they went to. And in the story he went to like a circus and that's where all the clowns were, which makes more sense. Also, Chris's friends are way more prevalent in the episode than they are in the story. They're like barely mentioned in the story. Same with his parents. His parents are barely mentioned in the story. And that also means that his relationship with Donica is non-existent in the story when it's probably like one of the bigger points in the episode. Kind of sad if you think about it. The clowns also abuse Chris a lot more in the story. They literally like spank him and beat him. And in the show, they just tossed him in a box and spun him around a little bit. Like I said, please go read the story. I did a horrible job at summarizing that. It's way creepier than I made it sound. Let me know what you think about Afraid of Clowns in the comments below. Also, let me know any other Haunting Hour episodes you guys would like to see me talk about. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get videos a day early, plus some bonus content that I'm working on and maybe some pictures of my cats. Like the video if you liked the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.